Hello, everyone. I'm Thomas Legrand, talking to you from the southwest of France, where I live, next to Plum Village, the Buddhist monastery of Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. So I'm glad to be with you, part of this European Summer Research Institute in this 5th day dedicated to how do we act in this uncertain world. So my short answer would be that in such a fast changing and complex world, we need to root the source of our actions in something deeper than the knowledge we have used so far collectively to guide our actions. I think we need a wisdom-based approach to politics. Knowledge cannot give us a general direction, and probably that's why we are lost at the moment. Wisdom can. And the role of knowledge to me is to precise, validate, operationalize wisdom's general orientation. I researched over the last 10 years how such an approach would look like, and I have called it Politics of Being, the name of my upcoming book. As I've experienced in my personal life, like probably many of you, when the future is so uncertain and we are surrounded by challenges, what we need to do is to come back to take refuge in ourselves, in our inner center, in our wisdom. Because the quality of our being impregnates all our thoughts and action, it is a reliable foundation that we need to cultivate in an uncertain world. And now the times are calling to bring this insight to the collective level, to our societies, institutions, politics, development paradigm. So I studied myself economics, management, political science, international development, and I had the chance at the end of my master's degree to do a student exchange in Mexico some 20 years ago, where I connected with native spirituality, with shamans, and I experienced the deep process of reconnecting with myself, with the earth, and this changed the orientation of my life. I put my spiritual path as my main priority. I wanted to explore my full potential as a human being, and knowing that this was indeed also necessary to be an effective agent of change in service of the world. So I've stayed 3 years in Mexico learning from these traditions, and then I come back to France and I learn from also other traditions and develop a great confidence in their wisdom. And I was especially interested in Zhu's teaching that I liked the fact that humanity is undergoing a deep process of spiritual evolution. This became increasingly the lens through which I understood and interpreted the happenings in the world. And it was really surprising to me that this is it's never part of the conversation we are having on politics or sustainability. So that's why I think I have felt the need to write this book. Also in my work, so I worked in the field of sustainability, in microfinance, in also for a shorter time in management consulting before doing a PhD in ecological economics on tropical forest conservation. Then I worked on forests for the last 12 years. I worked on forest conservation, on sustainable finance, climate change. And I've always felt like there's little we can achieve in this current development paradigm that emphasizes economic growth as an environmentalist, I've always felt like we are working against the flow. Also, I've been part of very strategic assignments like designing national green development, sustainable development strategies. And even in these very important assignments, I felt there's never the chance to go back to the root of our crisis and address these more cultural inner aspects. So that's why I decided to write this book some 10 years ago. 6 years ago, we decided with my wife to come to live here to deepen our practice. And I've also benefited of Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching on engaged and applied Buddhism. So fortunately, the recognition of inner development potential for sustainability is increasing. At the moment, I'm working with a UNDP initiative called Conscious Food Systems Alliance that wants to harness the power of inner transformation for the systemic transformation of food systems towards sustainability. So before we move to this presentation, I'd like you to invite you to find a comfortable position and reconnect with ourselves, with our body, our feelings, so that we can really be in touch with how does this presentation resonate with you. So we'll listen 3 sounds of the bell while following our breathing. Thank you. So it seems we need a cultural evolution. United Nations Development Programme in its last Human Development Report indeed mentioned that we need a wholesale shift in mindsets. And I believe this cultural evolution is of a spiritual nature, a change of mind and heart, as the Earth Charter said 20 years ago. It's basically linked to the fact that we have developed to a great extent our external power, and this has made our world and the challenges we are facing more complex, but we have not developed our wisdom, our inner capacities to balance this external power. As the Dalai Lama said, the fundamental problem is that at every level, we are giving too much attention to the external material aspects of life while neglecting moral ethics and inner values. So the cultural paradigm from which we operate in the West, but more and more everywhere in the world, is based on what Charles Eisenstein called the story of separation, where we are separated from each other, from nature. It is based also on a number of values such as individualism, reductionism, materialism, and this has framed a development paradigm, cultural software based on mastering nature to fulfill our material needs. And as part of this paradigm, human beings are seen as material self-interest maximizer. So I believe with Eisenstein that we are moving to the story of interbeing that highlight our interconnectedness with one another and with nature, and that calls up to act as responsible member of the Earth family. So there's a lot of, this story articulate basic answers to universal questions that each culture asks itself. What we are, how things work, etc. And there's a lot of science that are more and more shifting or consciousness toward this understanding of in the story of interbeing rather than the story of separation. So this story of separation, we're having difficulties at the moment to let it go, and it is becoming increasingly more destructive as it is less and less adapted to the current circumstances. So we are really, it's bringing really the worst at the moment. And at the same time, the story of interbeing is trying to be born, to express itself in the world, to become our new paradigm, and it really expresses the best in us. That makes Yuval Noah Harari say that we are on the threshold of both heaven and hell. So there's a recognition that our development paradigm needs to evolve. This was there was a important discussion around that before we adopt the Sustainable Development Goals as a new overarching framework for international development. This recognition, we need to move, there's a recognition that we need to move towards a more sustainable, a more qualitative, human, integral development. Behind all of this, we can note a fundamental orientation, which is from having economic growth towards being or human flourishing. As the Earth Charter says, when basic needs have been met, human development is primarily about being more, not having more. And this is coherent indeed with the science around the evolution of global values that have shown that in the last decades, there's a big cultural evolution in developed countries from materialism to post-materialism, and from more fundamentally from survival to self-expression. So the politics of being is this wisdom-based approach informed by science, which highlights being as our main collective goal and means. I'll come back to that. By being, I mean the fulfillment of all beings, not only human beings. For humans, this means expressing our full potential, or truest being on the one hand, you know, helping us to fulfill our healthy aspirations, how we can express ourselves in the world, and helping us to express our interbeing relational nature. At the same time, it is our highest being, the development of virtues and human qualities within us. And both truest being and highest being balance, complete each other, and ultimately is one and the same thing. So the politics of being aims at aligning our institutions with our true reason to be here on Earth, becoming who we are, the best and most complete version of ourselves. As I said, being is also the means. We cannot separate the means and the goal, as wisdom tradition said. That means that institutions should not only deliver results in their own field, but do so through tapping on our human potential, through fostering the best in humans. I give an example. For example, at the moment, the paradigm of our justice systems is retributive justice. It means that whoever does something wrong needs to be punished. That is justice, but it's not working. The alternative paradigm is restorative justice. Basically, offender and victim come together with other people in the community to face the harm that has been done and have a deep dialogue. And as part of this process cultivates in each of the participants key human qualities, such as deep listening, compassion, understanding, respect, forgiveness, etc. So we see that in restorative justice, we are addressing our needs for justice, but at the same time, we cultivate inner qualities that are key to make that happen. So this is what we need to do in all different sectors. And by doing so, our institution should provide us favorable conditions for being, and help us grow as individuals, and help us develop collectively the wisdom for adapting and refining our institutions, so that we can enter into a virtuous circle of an evolutionary process. So a simple theory of change for the inner path to sustainability. So basically, our system is based on disconnected, egocentric individual that prioritize what psychological science calls extrinsic goals, wealth, fame, recognition, etc. And the science tells us that this makes people, this brings suffering to these people, more suffering. And at the same time, these people are develop attitudes and behaviors that are towards other humans and nature that are negative. On the other hand, we could ask ourselves what spiritual evolution entails, and to understand that, we can come back to the ultimate spiritual experience that some mystics have shared with us, and which is basically this sense of oneness with everything. And from this sense of oneness emanates naturally a sense of, wanting to be in service, wanting to do no harm, which can be the basis for sustainability. There are different names they use: unity consciousness, interbeing, but it's the same experience. So we may not enjoy maybe that experience ourselves, but at least it can tell us what spiritual evolution entails. And it's basically nourishing three essential connections: to ourselves, to nature, and to other humans. And that's what is needed for both sustainability and happiness. Science indeed tells us that this inner connection is key for happiness, as well as the connection to others and nature. And as we grow happier and more connected to ourselves, we'll take more care of others and nature. So I've tried to map where this emerging politics of being is manifesting itself. And I've realized it is embodied by some spiritual values, which has become the subject of science and are over the last decades, and are entering the political field. So, for example, some people are inspired by systemic and complex thinking, and this is brought to the policy levels through different recommendations, including integral politics, for example. There are those people that emphasize harmonizing ourselves, the way our society is organized, with the ecological principles of life. For example, in the Buen Vivir philosophy, political philosophy in South America, or China's commitment to become an ecological civilization. Other people emphasize happiness, and we have Bhutan, gross national happiness, or New Zealand well-being budget, for example. Others come from putting at the forefront love, empathy, compassion, such as the Charter for Compassion that local governments have signed, committing themselves to become, for example, compassionate cities with action plans, etc. There is people emphasizing culture of peace, culture of partnership. Other people emphasize the potential of mindfulness for public policies in different sectors, such as in the UK Mindful Nation report. Other people are more connected with subtle realities and the mystery that even science is recognizing, including, for example, through quantum physics. So I call all these spiritual values because to me they reflect the qualities of an awakened being. They have a long, I mean, there's a long history in philosophy that emphasize, you know, the higher values as instrumental for social progress. For example, in the West, Plato's transcendentals, truth, goodness, and beauty have been defining, you know, the vision of the good life. And later on, Christian theology has considered that these truth, goodness, and beauty are at the image of God. So that means that's why also we can consider them spiritual value. Freedom, abundance, or prosperity are other values that have been also instrumental in the last centuries for social progress. So what I propose is an agenda for action, key concrete public policies in many sectors, which can represent a second stage, direct and indirect investment in human development. I mean, direct, for example, in terms of an education of being, a different approach to health, emphasizing mental health, for example, childhood and family policies that help us cultivate secure attachment, which is a basis of human flourishing and positive contribution to societies. And indirect is, for example, the example I used with justice, that for every need that we need to address in society, we need to address it in a way that helps us cultivate also our inner potential and the highest human qualities. Sorry. In conclusion, I like to highlight that healing trauma is a gateway to being at the individual and collective level. Trauma is often what prevents us from expressing our interbeing relational nature. Wisdom and science as the pillars of the politics of being. I think I've developed a strong rationale, understandable by decision makers and average citizens, and provide a simple but integral conceptual framework for this reflection, a framework that can integrate all relevant claims and initiatives. I propose concrete policy recommendations, usually based on existing examples, easily replicable, to show that it's a very concrete, practical possibility. It's the definition of a new field of research and action. And of course, it's a collective endeavor. So I invite all of you to join this work, and you can connect with the Politics of Being website. And this book will be released in October 2021 with a foreword by Matsurika. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you in this 5th day of the European Summer Research Institute. Thank you.